The United States has started a trade war with China that it is unlikely to win because it is far from understanding how the Asian country works. In this video, we look at 7 lessons we can learn from China. We will talk about their strategies, their bets for the future, and also their weaknesses. Much of China's economic success can be attributed to its ability to make long-term strategic decisions. The Chinese government has the power to guide and drive its economy by anticipating global market dynamics. This has allowed the country to be at the forefront of the renewable energy and electric vehicle industries. Another strategic Chinese commitment is the major global investment project known as the Belt and Road Initiative. The aim of this initiative is to improve global trade networks, which will ultimately benefit Chinese exports.
China's success is not random. China's success actually is a lot of forward-looking planning. In 2017, China made a plan for artificial intelligence. This is already 8 years ago. DeepSeek didn't just come out of nowhere, it came out of a long-term strategy. So this is hard work that actually pays off.
Faced with this executive power of the Chinese government, democracies often argue that they cannot compete on equal terms with totalitarian regimes because of the need for broad consensus. However, history offers many examples of democracies bringing about profound social and economic change through bold, consensual, forward-looking, and collective progress. Some of the most emblematic cases can be found in the second half of the 20th century. For example, England's first Labour government promoted the National Health Service, which became a benchmark for European public health systems. It also nationalised the railways, intervened in the mining market, and launched an ambitious council housing programme. These and other measures transformed the country and improved the lives of millions. In Asia, Japan has also demonstrated a strong capacity for planning. Through its powerful Ministry of International Trade and Industry, MITI, the Japanese government designed the country's economic development path. Its strong commitment to the electronics and automotive sectors has made Japan one of the richest countries in the world. In the latest PISA International Student Assessment reports, China leads in every category. This strategic investment in education is making China's workforce one of the most skilled in Asia, boosting the country's talent and productivity, and placing it at the forefront of technological innovation.
The truth is, China stopped being the low labor cost country many years ago, and that is not the reason to come to China from a supply point of view. The reason is because of the skill, and the tooling skill is very deep here. You know, in the US, you could have a meeting of tooling engineers and I'm not sure we could fill the room. In China, you could fill multiple football fields.
Equity in education ensures equality of opportunity and fosters a meritocracy, which in the long run translates into higher levels of productivity and economic growth. For example, if we compare the human teams behind DeepSeek with those behind the US OpenAI, we find a telling difference. The US struggles to develop its own talent and therefore relies heavily on importing skilled professionals. However, the excellence of Chinese education has its downside. High academic pressure creates high levels of stress in children and adolescents, leading to mental health problems in a significant number of students. This excessive social pressure, workload and competitiveness is not unique to China, but also affects countries such as Japan, South Korea, and India. While the academic results are outstanding, the cost in terms of emotional well-being seems unnecessary. There are educational models that achieve similar levels of excellence without sacrificing the mental health of students. Examples include the education systems in Ireland, Estonia, and Finland, which integrate both intellectual development and emotional well-being, allowing children to develop in a more balanced way. The People's Republic of China is the world's largest producer of renewable electricity. Its sector is expected to contribute 43% of global renewable capacity growth. The country aims to source 80% of its energy mix from non-fossil sources by 2060. China is also a major leader in clean energy technology. As its renewables production has grown, the costs of these technologies have fallen dramatically, thanks to both innovation and economies of scale from market expansion. Today, China is developing new industries and building a generation of energy infrastructure at a scale and speed unprecedented in the world. From Sichuan province to Zimbabwe, China is leading the way for sustainable development on a global scale. This strong political commitment to the green agenda is perhaps the most important lesson the world can learn from China. And not just because the energy transition is key to the future of the planet. China is also showing us that green industries can be good business and a key driver of global economic growth. The proof is in the economic forecasts for China's renewable energy sector, which are estimated to be worth $340 billion by 2035, a figure comparable to the combined oil sales of Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates.
Rather than attempting to replicate China's model, I think that other countries may need to accept that to a large extent, they're just along for the ride, needing to adjust to the shifts that China creates in energy markets, supply chains, and technology costs. This means adapting strategies, taking advantage of China's innovations, and finding space for our own.
In the inevitable comparison between today's two great powers, China and the US, there is one area where China falls short. War. Since 1950, Washington has carried out some 200 military interventions around the world. In the same period, China has intervened in only 2 conflicts, its last military incursion in 1979. While the US maintains 750 military bases in 80 countries, China has no military bases outside its borders. Some analysts attribute China's pacifism to philosophical reasons.
Since the great Chinese strategists believed that the worst way to win a war is to win it by fighting. And the best way to win a war is to win it without fighting. So there's no question that China will seek to expand its influence and its impact on the region and the world. But the Chinese can also believe that the stupidest thing they could do is to emulate the United States and start fighting a new war every few years.
But despite its almost non-existent war record, some still see China as an imminent threat.
NATO listed China as one of its strategic priorities for the first time, saying Beijing's ambitions and its coercive policies challenge the Western Bloc's interests, security and values. And the Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg went on to say China is substantially building up its military forces, including nuclear weapons, bullying its neighbours and threatening Taiwan. My God. I mean, these are our biggest trading partner. Are we wanting to fight with the Chinese? What's in it for us? The Chinese haven't dropped a bomb on anyone in 40 years. The Americans still spend 3 times more than they do on military hardware. What's wrong with us?
The truth is that the US has made warfare one of its main industries. In recent decades, it has been involved in conflicts such as Iraq, Afghanistan and Syria, with results that can hardly be called successes, but which have created enormous global instability.
It was nothing but warmongering, confirmation in the States of Munich that NATO is a larger scale mafia that creates insecurity in order to sell protection, and doesn't even do that anymore.
War is the greatest horror that human beings can inflict on each other. Promoting it for profit and turning it into a business is certainly the wrong way to go about it.
There's $1 trillion to American companies. They're going to be spending a lot of money to American companies for buying military equipment and a lot of other things.
China understands that its own progress is linked to the social and economic progress of the rest of the world. As the world's leading producer of consumer goods and most countries' largest trading partner, its economic model is based on a simple premise. If you do well, I will do well. The greater the global prosperity and wealth, the greater the demand for Chinese products. But investing effectively in other countries to boost their growth is no easy task. Many international cooperation initiatives have produced modest results or have been completely ineffective. China, with its economic and technical capacity, has focused its investment on building large infrastructure, a strategy that is particularly effective in developing countries.
These countries believe that China has something to offer, and they are doing it. They have schools, hospitals, roads, electricity projects. One of the low issues is that Africa has lots of resources, but it doesn't develop them and add value, and as a result, it gets a very slim margin of the total profit. So China is providing the machinery so that they can start doing their own processing, as well as sharing, high-tech development through co-processes and joint ventures. This is something completely new in Africa because this is not something Europe or America has been willing to do before.
These nations, which lack both financial resources and advanced technology, find in China a partner capable of developing the infrastructure needed to boost their economies. Sub-Saharan Africa is a case in point. Western countries extract much more than they invest in the region, and China has taken advantage of this vacuum to build a strong trading network. In return for financial support and infrastructure, it receives minerals essential to its economic development. This growing Chinese influence on the African continent has raised suspicions in other countries, especially in the US.
The vice president of the US came to Zambia, landed at a Chinese-built airport in Zambia. And this was out of solidarity that airport was built for Zambia. Moved on a Chinese-built road in Zambia. The venue of this summit was actually a gift to Zambia by the Chinese government. And that was where this Summit for Democracy was held. Key agenda of this summit was to curb Africa's cooperation with China in a Chinese gift.
From an economic point of view, inequality seems almost inevitable. In his comprehensive study of the evolution of inequality, Walter Scheidel shows how it has been a constant throughout history. Therefore, the goal should not be absolute equality, but what the Chinese Communist Party calls common prosperity.
What we see in China today is there's been creation of so much value and wealth that the disparity or the unfairness of it all is beginning to creep up. China has to address this before it occurs. Watch out for oligopolies and monopolies. Watch out for inefficiencies, which a dominance of capital in the market economy can lead to. And this, I think, is how China is addressing the common prosperity issue.
Fairness should not only be seen as a matter of social justice, it also has a positive economic impact. A fairer distribution of wealth can trigger a Keynesian dynamic in which greater purchasing power stimulates consumption, production, and hence economic growth. When this growth is fairly distributed, more jobs are created and the virtuous circle of the economy is reinforced. As part of this strategy, China has taken a number of measures, including regulation of the technology sector, with anti-monopoly measures and controls on algorithms that encourage consumption. The construction of 6.5 million rental homes, reforms at China's largest state-owned bank to reduce wage inequality among its employees, pressure on large companies to devote more resources to corporate social responsibility. Many of these policies contrast with the West's inability to confront the power of large corporations, especially in the technology sector.
Zuckerberg goes in front of Congress and gets pilloried. No concern for young people, skyrocketing teen suicide. They get their TikTok moment. Then he goes into a confidential security hearing and he says, guys, do you want me to continue to help you kill terrorists? And what do you know? There's never been a law passed regulating social media. I think that is what is happening after these Congress people get their TikTok moment.
However, without denying the effectiveness of these measures, there are still areas where China can improve if it is truly committed to more equitable prosperity. Essential services such as free universal healthcare and a more robust pension system still lag behind the EU average. Although the country has started to move in this direction, there is still a long way to go. Although it may seem contradictory, democracies may have something to learn from the Chinese political model. Can an autocracy be more equitable and socially just than a democracy? Until recently, democratic systems were seen as the political guarantee of economic and social development. But China's rise as an efficient, economically powerful and technologically innovative autocracy has challenged this belief. The main lesson that democracies can learn from comparing themselves to the Chinese model is to recognize that they have ceased to function properly and to analyze the causes of this weakening. It is not absurd to think that what democracies need today to become stronger is more democracy. In a capitalist system, there are three basic economic actors: the workers, the employers, and the government. In a healthy democracy, the government should act as an arbiter between them. However, there is a widespread perception that this referee has been bought by capital and big business. This sense of manipulation was evident during the 2008 crisis, when governments used public money to bail out private banks. When austerity measures are then imposed on the population, as happened in the European Union, it is logical that confidence in the system is shaken. This lack of respect for the rules of the game is reflected in many ways, one of the most damaging of which is the hypocrisy of the parties that have traditionally represented working people, be they Labour, Socialist or Democrat. These parties continue to use progressive rhetoric to win elections, but once in power, their economic policies are little different from those of the Conservatives.
The party of censorship is the Democratic Party. The party of war is the Democratic Party. The party of mass surveillance is the Democratic Party. The party that turbocharged neoliberalism, whether it was NAFTA, the destruction of the welfare system, the deregulation of the FCC, all he has to do is flip a switch and he has an authoritarian state.
This dissatisfaction with an unjust system, where voting does not change things and economic power always wins, is driving the growth of the far right. But these far-right movements are also funded by economic elites, who are essentially seeking to maintain their privileges. If democracies are to become engines of human and economic development again, they must improve their functioning and recover their core values, which are now in decline. The fact that an autocratic system like China's turns out to be more ecologically resolute, more economically productive, more committed to international solidarity, better educated and more pacifist should give us pause for thought.
Democratic institutions need to deliver not just in terms of growth, but in terms of public goods, low inequality, control of corruption. All of this is much easier if we have this balance between state and society, in particular, the kind of balance that only comes from the mobilization of society so that people can be vigilant against all kinds of elites, be they dictators like Vladimir Putin or economic elites such as, Elon Musk or Sam Altman or other mega rich people. I think bottom-up participation against the powerful has to remain a key channel via which democracy, freedom, and prosperity have to be defended.